Well, hey guys, how you doing? I just figured I'd do a little stream tonight on some live band recording that I did, and yeah, I just figured I would show kind of the different stuff that I do for a live recording, and show kind of my different approach to getting the tracks to work right, to get it to sound right. A lot of times, a live recording, it could sound really bad, right? Like, you think of a live recording, you think of like some sort of really bad demo that was made in a rehearsal space. And I don't want to make a recording that sounds like it was done in a rehearsal space. I want to actually make it sound respectable and, a recording that really could stand on its own and could be released and could be enjoyed by a lot of people. So I did this recording. It's a band called Hustle Souls, hustlesouls.com if you want to check them out. We just did like a 5 or 6 song EP here at Creative Sound Lab, and it came out great. It really did. They had their album release, and because of COVID, we really couldn't do a kind of an album release show. And, I just happened to mention, hey, if you ever want to do a live broadcast, I have kind of the gear to do it. Just let me know. And they took me up on it. And they said, yeah, we'll do a live broadcast with you and do our show there. So there's some challenges to this, okay? It is definitely there's definitely some weird stuff going on here. Let me show you kind of the setup. This is the setup. So you have a drummer here, vocals here, keyboards, bass. We actually have a bass cabinet sitting right here on a wooden dolly with wheels. We have a guitar amp right here, mic'd up with a 421. So guitarist here. We have a vocal mic for the drummer. Okay, so this will be interesting, and I'll show you a little bit about what I'm kind of messing with, but I really tried to do some homework on this, and I really wanted to try to make this work, and I think that I succeeded to a point. It's pretty difficult because we have cymbals and we have a drummer that it really doesn't sing really too loud, which is fine. He's got a fantastic voice. I actually didn't know that he had such a good voice, but it's really challenging. Just the raw volume of the voice versus a drum kit that's only 2 feet away. So, great band. Super great band. So, keyboards, a DI-in. Actually, no. Keyboards was a DI track, single DI track, and I just grabbed it out of his amp. So, we got an amp here for keyboard. We have a PA system for vocal. So, I have actually this mic going into a PA system. This might go into so it was kind of a nightmare. But you know what? Let me show you a little bit on how this thing sounds. I think it actually sounds pretty good. Let me just play a little bit of this track here. And we'll kind of dive in and kind of dissect what I did, kind of my general approach for live mixing.
Days of work, 2 days of sin. I didn't know it then. I was broken within. Whiskey don't let me down. Yeah, I'm going home again. I see you in the morning. I see you. Yeah, I'm going home again. Whiskey don't let me down. in my hollow chest. I never wanna leave you, but I'm going home alone. Yeah, I'm going home again. I'll see you in the morning, I'll see you again. Yeah, I am going home again. Oh, whiskey don't let me down tonight.
Okay, so I don't want to cut the band short, but also don't want to lose you either. So, yeah, man, like this band, you know, I've seen comments about people really leaning into the music. Live is live. The sound of the band coming to the overheads is where it's at. Yeah, this is kind of stuff that really makes it fun to do this, right? My first experience recording a band live was at a club, and it was when I was doing a lot of multi-tracking, a lot of layering, and I came back and mixed the music, and I was just blown away by how much more interesting and fun it was to listen to. So yeah, it's kind of it's got that vibe of live performance. It doesn't have that polish. It's got that kind of jammy thing because people are live. But at the same time, it's just got that energy, right? It's got that organic quality. So the idea is to make it sound good. Okay, how do you keep this from sounding like a garage recording, like some sort of really bad recording done at a rehearsal space? I'm gonna break that down for you today a little bit. Oh, thanks. Yeah, amazing sound, Topa. Yeah. So let me know in the chat. Say hi in the chat. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take as many as I can. Now, this is actually a 2-hour performance. So what I'm kind of doing is mixing kind of everything at like a macro level, and then going through and doing various rides on different elements. So this is the song we just, kind of previewed here. And I have the guitar going up, and then it kind of goes down, So I'll do that for the other tracks. I'll render out the whole performance, and then I'll sync it to video, give it to the band. And, kind of the goal is that I have this ability to record people, and I got the video cameras, and, I want to help out the band because they haven't been able to do any shows. And I really enjoy doing this. Like, this is a lot of fun. And so it gives me something to talk about, and, man, this is a lot of fun to mix, too. Now, the key to this recording, it's very subtle, You wouldn't even know that it's there. But I have a couple of talkback mics they're right here, and they are right here. There we go. So right here and right here. So I could have chosen a different mic for the background vocalist to sing into, but I did the SM57, and the reason is because I really knew that the SM57 could be used as a room mic, and it could do pretty well as that role. Some mics just don't really do that well, and I don't know if it's just my room, but I knew that it'd be okay with the SM57. Again, I had better mics, but I knew that it would be okay. And I guess I'm kind of giving away the technique here, but I didn't see it as a background vocalist mic, okay? So it is a room mic that happens to be a microphone that the background vocalist can also just go up and sing into. Okay, that's the key thing. So I'm embracing the bleed. I'm kind of working backwards. And I'm saying, okay, what are the things that I can't control? I'm going to have bleed in vocal mics. I'm going to have bleed from guitar amps getting into the overheads. So there's some things you just can't control. But I think the most difficult thing to manage in a live recording is drums versus vocals. Okay, that is like they're enemies. Okay, it's the hardest thing to deal with. Now, if it's not vocals, it could be anything else that's just soft, right? Like somebody brings an acoustic guitar or a cello. I mean, come on, like, and they have a mic on it. Like, that's going to be very difficult to mic up and get a good sound, and actually make it work. Now, if you apply this concept of saying, well, okay, I got background vocals, I could just embrace the bleed that's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of bleed. Then yeah, you could apply this to any instrument that's soft, that's in the room. You gotta almost think of it as a room mic. So choose your mics that would work well as room mics, and then position your instruments in kind of a way that would work. So if it's a ribbon mic, then you have them look at a 90-degree angle to the drums, and that way it's nulling out the drums. This mic here, these mics actually are pointed. I told the band this. I said, this is actually, there's a reason why these mics here are actually slightly pointed away from the drum set, so don't adjust them. So John, the bass player, he's sitting at the mic, but the mic is kind of actually like this to him. And I just kind of told him, like, that's a reason for that. Same thing with Chris, the guitarist here. These are kind of pointing away from the drum kit in order to null out the drums and get the reflections off these back walls. Again, because these are our room mics. Now, we could actually compress these like room mics. We could actually experiment with phase relationships between these mics and the drum kit. We could experiment with phase relationships between the vocal mic and the drum kit. Okay, all these things actually are connected. That's what makes it kind of challenging, is that it's not just one element. It's actually several elements. They're all interactive, okay? So it's very easy to kind of get knocked off balance. And there was a couple things like that. Like this vocal mic here for the drummer, I probably could have aimed it a little bit better so it nulled out the cymbals a little bit more. Maybe these mics could have been set up a little bit different, but overall it's pretty good. All it takes, like, classic example is a snare mic, right? So you hope that you record a snare in a snare mic. However, a lot of times you just end up recording a lot of hi-hat. So it's these little details that when you're kind of running and setting up stuff, it can really get overlooked in a hurry, and the next thing you know, you have tons of hi-hat, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's the kind of stuff you have to watch out for, is like, you have red flags, and you have to watch out for the red flags and kind of know where they are. We all, I think, know about the snare drum and the hi-hat. Try not to record the hi-hat, because it's always just getting into mics. And for live recording, it really comes down to these vocal mics, okay? Vocals versus drums. That is the challenge. So let me play a little bit of these background vocal mics and show you the role that they play. Let's see here. Let me kind of dig around this session because I'm not exactly sure. Trumpet, keys. Okay. Okay, so you get the idea. I kind of wish it was more balanced, right? The snare sounds a little bit different out of the right than it does the left. And I'm not exactly sure why that would be. I don't know, it's almost like the snare bottom somehow got into John's mic a little bit more. I would have thought that it would have been in this mic, but it would have been great if I could have listened to that, maybe made adjustments, but didn't have time. So we'll just move the fader, okay? That's not too big of a deal. So I'll take this out. Let me go ahead and kill any effects, because I actually had like additional reverb on that, which is kind of funny, I guess.
I see you in the morning, I see you. Yeah,
So this is just overheads, which is actually a Glenn Johns pair of Signal Art U47s. So, man, this is such a privilege to be able to use these things. Thanks to Garrett Deerhofer over at Studio 412 for loaning me the mic down here. And these are going into a Cappy Platinum 312. And you can hear kind of the bleed. It's getting some of the band, okay? But it's really, I think it's kind of charming, okay? Yeah, so with that mic, I did my best to angle it slightly away from the drums, okay? Not enough to really color the sound too much. It'll do a little bit, but again, if I angle it, it'll be away from the drums. And I definitely angled it, about, if this was straight on, I angled it kind of like that. So, not too much. That's the raw track. That's how it sounds. Bass was a DI. Then I used the Plug-in Alliance B15. And then I went to the Big Freak, which is not doing a whole lot. Then I did the Deflector by Sli-Fi. And this would have been the WT Comp. So now that I have you on my screen, B15N, Big Freak. This might have been just a volume adjustment actually. Then Deflector, that's probably what it was, because I'm not used to where these knobs kind of line up. So no, they're not playing live right now. It's pre-recorded. So this was actually broadcasted for the band, and I did this just so they'd have a place to play, because they just kind of needed it for their own sanity, really. So I'm just like, let's do something. You know, they haven't played a show in a couple months at least, and so yeah, this is all pre-recorded, and I'll be, getting this out and getting a whole, I got like 2 cameras on the band, and we switch back and forth a lot, so I can get this out eventually. But yeah, so we got the bass. It's just a DI, and then in the room, no headphones. Okay, nobody's on headphones, so we got keyboard going into an amp. We got bass going into an amp, which is the single 15 speaker inside of a big cabinet, and it's going into a acoustic 150C head. So think Zeppelin bass, great sounding, kind of mid-heavy bass amp. However, that's not what we're hearing. We're picking up the DI. I think the DI went into a WT72. So this combined with that Neve DI box or whatever, there's almost too much low end. I mean, it was nuts. It was really it was amazing, but there's too much low end. I mean, it's like the kind of low end that like takes out all the headroom of your mix. I had kick also in the WT72, and it just sounded amazing, but again, it was a lot of low end. So I actually have some high passing going on here just to make it manageable. But yeah, so here I was going to reamp the bass into that exact amp, but I just decided, you know what, this is a lot. This is a 2-hour long project. I don't exactly want to leave an amp on and leave the building. I don't mind maybe like letting it run through outboard and just coming back 2 hours later, but I don't want to sit here and listen to bass play for 2 hours. So yeah, I could reamp it, but this actually sounds quite good. So yeah, this is what's on the bass. So we have a trumpet mic here, which is the Stager in front of the keyboards. So we have it right here. And it's surprisingly how much it really is kind of not picking up a whole lot. Actually have it going into reverb. So again, like just it's almost like I could have used more than what I had, like it's funny because you'd think that the bleed is just too much and it's gonna like completely overtake the recording, but I was actually adding in some short reverbs to kind of add some life. Okay. Then we have going back to the background vocals.
Cheap as red.
Oh, actually, that's the drummer. That's the drummer vocal mic. And that is a whole different thing, actually. That is the Lewitt 640TS twin system. I'll get to that in a second. It's a stereo microphone that you can change the polar pattern after you make the recording. I'll come back to that in a second. This is kind of a lot going on here. So, again, the live recording stemmed from managing the worst, most difficult parts first. We addressed the issues of vocals versus drums, basically. And then everything else was kind of more the nuts and bolts. How am I going to record bass? How are we going to get vocals so everybody can actually hear what they're doing, right? So we set up a PA system in the room, kind of like a live, stage wedge kind of thing. So yeah, my theory is to kind of lean on this pair of background vocal mics, and okay, that didn't sound like too impressive at first, but let me take it out and then put it back in.
Going home again. I'll see you in the morning. I'll see you again. Yeah, I am going home again. No whiskey don't let me down
So, I mean, that's not too bad, right? Where the magic really happens is when you take something that, let's see here. Yeah. You take a very simple delay, like 20 milliseconds, and now all of a sudden, that bleed becomes alive. It becomes its own thing entirely. It's a very different thing. Check this out. So this is our 20 millisecond delay. Let me just, can I rename this? Yeah. Okay. Go a little more on this. Yeah, so, that really works. It really, really works. And, there is a lot of technique to this. It really comes down to that, because if you just set up mics in a room, you're going to get a garage recording. You have to really think about it and strategize how you're going to set up a mic. Speaking of such, let's check out the vocal mic.
and I'll see you again. Yeah, I am going home again. Oh, whiskey don't let me down tonight.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of bleed in there, right? The reason why we didn't use headphones is because, well, it's supposed to be like a virtual show, right? It's their CD release party, and I figured I just didn't want to mess with headphone cables, to be honest. You know, I don't know. I just felt like it might inhibit the performance a little bit, and I just wanted people to be able to be as natural as possible in the room playing their music. Yeah, we probably could have gotten a little bit more comfortable volume into their ears of their vocal mics. It's one thing they asked for a couple times, and like we were on the verge of feedback several times actually. So it's not ideal, but I really think it worked. And again, you really have to think and strategize how you create this stew of sound. So that's the vocal mic. And again, it's almost like a room mic that happens to be in front of the main vocalists, right? So what's interesting about this, and this is kind of moving on, we've heard kind of some of the raw tracks, and what we're going to do is focus on the actual alignment and phase relationships between the those room mics and the drums, because we kind of have to make them work together. So I have, let's see here. Let me see where I'm at.
And I see you again. Yeah. Whiskey don't let me down tonight. I am going home again. I see you in the morning, I see you again.
So that's what we're working with, that amount of bleed, okay? There's definitely a relationship between that and the drums. A lot of this is pretty diffused, so, I said about the phase relationships, and there is, but I would say that, let's see here, especially when there isn't kind of a lot of diffusion. So the trumpet mic, it's actually kind of facing the drum kit. The back of that mic is kind of looking this way. And so what I made sure is to actually align that mic with the drum set. So it's receiving one, and I don't even know what would be feeding that, but could be the snare. There we go, sending one. So I actually aligned the trumpet mic with the snare mic to create that. Let's see if I can hear a difference. I'm going to flip polarity on this trumpet mic, and let's just see how much effect it actually has. And keep in mind, every little bit, every little kind of ounce of thickness and energy you suck out of the drums, eventually you have kind of a struggling mix, and then you add more EQ, and then you wonder when you go out to your car, man, why does everything sound so overly EQ'd? You can do stuff like, there's a lot of stuff you can do with timing of tracks, phase of tracks. So much you can do that affects the tone and the sound of things. This here was just delay, right? Delaying of this diffused background vocal sound. That sounds huge. So, trumpet mic, where is it? Here we go. Yeah, so definitely a difference there. Okay, that mic is across the room, and we have to respect this mic combining with this mic and the phase relationship. We can scoot around the trumpet mic. It's not really going to make a big difference. It's only one mic. But we have so many other things kind of tied up in the drums that we have a new guy showing up to the party across the room. We got to make sure that it's working. So this is a great plugin. I really like the Auto Align plugin by SoundRadix. Just fantastic to work with. It just seems to work. Okay, I don't have to really mess with it too much. It usually gets me a result very fast and pretty effortless. And it just makes sure that I get all of the meat and the fullness out of my drums. You hear it there? It's subtle, but it's subtracting and sucking the tone out of that snare. So that's kind of stuff we got to worry about. Over here, we have lots of diffusion. It's not too much of a problem. But I bet you it would make a difference. Well, we could check it out. Let's see here. Get so lost in what's solid, what's not solid. Pop it into mono so we can listen better. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to listen first to how loud the snare is in the background vocal mics. Okay, now I'm going to match that with the actual mic. And now that they're matched, now if I do a polarity flip, it would most likely be more evident. Let's find a spot here. Yeah, I actually think it sounds better like that. I think that makes a difference. So, yeah, you have to consider this. Like, ideally, you'd say, oh, yeah, like the mic's so far away, it probably doesn't matter, but, sometimes it does, and it can be just a little bit of a tone suck. every track in here is mixing with everything else. So it's exciting, but it's also challenging for these reasons, right? Check out the guitar. Okay, not a whole lot going in there. And, one of the most interesting things to kind of experiment with is to figure out what's the most offending element of any situation, and it's not the guitars. It's actually the drums. And so the louder you crank those amps, the less drum bleed you actually get, because it's just a ratio, right? You're only 3 inches from the speaker of the amp, and if you're only playing it, say, at 90 dB next to a drum set, you're going to get a lot more bleed. But if you crank the amp to 110 dB, just with a ratio of dry to indirect noise, your noise floor will be a lot lower. Okay, that bleed or noise floor will be a lot lower, right? So that's kind of the technique, is to understand what the enemies are, right? It's drums versus vocal, okay? A lot of people might say it's guitar amp versus the overheads, and I used to think that, but I've done a lot of testing, and it's really not too bad. I mean, I can show you here. There's barely any guitar in there. It's really about that trumpet, actually. There's quite a bit of trumpet in the overheads. Go back to stereo. Yeah. So, it's just about making sure that things work together. Do I have any questions so far about anything that I've said? Oh, thanks, Rick. Audix OM5, OM7? I haven't done that. I haven't had an experience with that mic, but yeah. Ah, wow. Yeah, OM5 or OM7. I'll have to check that out. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions on this, what I've talked about so far. That's just kind of the basic, no effects, just EQ compression kind of thing, and making sure all your phase relationships are going and they're working. That's where we're at, right? We got some bleed on the trumpet and the overheads. That's like one of the most offending things. We have a lot of bleed in the drums going into the vocal mics. Keys are, sounding great, because there's nothing to worry about. Just like bass, that's a DI track. So we got lucky there. However, there's an amp in the room, right? Let's see how loud it was in the room. I just popped over to some song 15 minutes ago. Got control. Whiskey don't let me down. Wow, I don't know if we really played much keys on this song, but But yeah, that's a DI track. Okay, so kind of the next step is kind of a very classic approach. And I don't know, I don't know who it was, but I saw in this tape op article where this guy he set up a band in an afternoon, and then he kind of mixed on a console, and he made it look easy. And the guy was like, "Man, this guy's so old school. It's so cool. He made it look so easy." And I realized I kind of like to do the same thing. I don't think it's very unique. I think a lot of people do it, but if you have your guitar hard pan to one side, you add like a short reverb, and you hard pan the reverb to the other side, and so you get basically like a widening where you feel like you're in the reverb. It's dry over here, wet over here, and then you do the same thing for something over here, and so you basically have a dry something over here and a wet response over there. So that could be guitar, keyboard, guitar, piano, be any number of things really. So I did a little bit of that, and let's see. Trying to think. I mean, that's been a bit since I've mixed this, but let's see what I did for this guitar. So yeah, it's in there, and it doesn't have to be too loud. That could even be a little too loud there. But the idea is to have the dry stuff on the left, the wet stuff on the right, or vice versa. It looks like effects 2 was something else, maybe keys? Yeah, here we go, effects 2. Let's have a listen to the keys.
Whiskey don't let me down.
It looks like I was animating this. Turn that off for a second. Yeah, okay, so, in some respect, it's almost a way to stereoize something without actually having to, use some weird fancy plugin. It's a very natural way to make something stereo. You have something dry, something wet. You get a very, very big contrast between two different textures. And reverb would work better with piano. And with a sustained instrument like this, it's like, why am I adding reverb? Well, it's just to kind of basically stereoize it. So you have, again, all that was a dry guitar track on the left, about halfway pan to the left, not hard panned, but hard panned effect, and it's kind of a short effect. Let's see here, yeah, let me shift this to pre-fader so I can kill the direct sound. And I actually would use a shorter one if it was available. This is almost too long for my taste. And that's when I kind of go to like IRs and stuff, like IRs of, classrooms and living rooms. Living room is actually really nice for something like this because it's very warm, kind of muddy. And mud is great when you have a brittle source that has a ton of 3K. Yeah. So it just kind of makes it seem believable. Maybe there was, maybe this happened in some sort of hall or some sort of venue. Okay, it makes it enjoyable. So those are our two kind of mono elements, is the keys, the guitar, the bass is panned down the middle. So, not much to do there. Just make sure that it has good tone, that it works in the mix. Then we have our vocal mics, our background vocal mics, that is, paired up with the drums. Oh, that's the drum mic. Yeah, we got to get to that too. So, right. We added reverb. We added fake reverb. This is our first fake reverb, you could say, is guitar and keys, and they counter on the opposite sides. But this is real reverb, and it's our background vocal. It's like how big you want to go with this, right? So that's great. Like, he's like yelling at himself. I don't know if he screwed up a part or what, but I mean the mic is like right there, But that's our room mic. Okay. Okay. That's kind of our throttle for like how loud you want it to sound. Okay, you kind of throttle that back or up. So, anybody have any questions so far? Adam Rainstopper. Yeah, a lot of good ideas in the chat. Yeah, all these are really good. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of the basic, it's a theory of mixing live. You make sure that stuff works, make sure that there's nothing offending other tracks. So classic example is hi-hat getting into the snare mic, making the snare mic completely useless. In this case, we have drums going into vocal mics. And surprisingly, it works. We have a lot of diffused sound. The bleed is diffused on purpose. We set it up to kind of null out the direct sound of the kit. It tends to work pretty good using the 57s, and then the SM7B also work pretty good. Now this drum mic was very, very interesting. It's a Lewitt 640 TS, and let me find an example of kind of what we're working with here. It's kind of a nightmare. It really is. Okay, let me actually take out this. Okay, so that's the side of the mic that faces the drums. It's a 2-channel mic. The side that goes away from the drums is this. Ouch. It's not that much different. Whoop. It's a little more diffused on that snare. But I went ahead and just labeled this kit mic. I was going to use it as some sort of mixing kind of asset. But what you do is you hard pan these, you load in the Lewitt plugin, and then based on the slider here, you can change the polar pattern of that mic. So the idea is to set up this large diaphragm condenser mic, which you'd think would be a nightmare. But I tested it against SM7B, and it actually worked a lot better. The SM7B had just this weird kind of bleed from the drum kit. It just, both mics had bleed, but the Lewitt had a lot better bleed, and you can control it better. So, large diaphragm condenser right next to the kit for vocals. And let me show you kind of how it cancels out various elements of the kit. This is the forward position, so this would be drummer vocal, and this would be the nulling of the drummer vocal going out towards the kit. And this would be figure 8, obviously, so we actually could switch directions of the mic, technically, right? Make the mic face the opposite way. This is Omni, and then Omni here. So yeah, let me just kind of show you a little bit on this mic. Once again, this here is, the software is basically muting one channel and then soloing the other channel. It's important to have these both at unity gain and then hard panned, and then they're fed into this plugin here. So yeah, this is facing away from the drummer. This is facing towards the drummer. You can hear it, like the snare. It actually sounds like a nice, almost like an overhead kind of mic, but it is right in the drummer's face. Which is kind of funny. This is kind of a weird mic session, right? We have room mics that are in the face of the background vocalists, and we have a drum overhead that's in the face of the drummer. So it's kind of a weird way to put it, but that's kind of what's happening here. So yeah, if we needed to, we could use that as some sort of element to mix our drums. Here's what it sounds like in figure 8. So yeah, I mean, we can try to pick the polar pattern that gets us the least amount of bleed to hopefully be acceptable when it comes time for Kevin to sing. And I don't know if he sings on this song or not. I might have to go to a different track here. Let me just kind of shuttle around here and see what we're working with.
Don't make me beg.
Yeah.
I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. You run around in circles, hey, got a chip on your shoulder, I could say. Definition of insanity, well, you're living in a fantasy, I believe. Don't make me begging, please. I wanna know. I wanna know.
So yeah, it's crazy how much this matters. This really worked out pretty cool. It's not perfect. It's not the easiest thing still to mix, right? But I mean, this is what a cardioid mic would have gotten us. Is this right here?
I wanna know. You run around in circles, hey.
But instead, what we can do is we can take this mic, which is right here, and we can give it a figure 8, or we can shift the null so that it's like a hyper or a super cardioid. So the back is a little bit narrower, and then the null actually comes out at an angle. So depending on what we need to null out, we can actually null out the cymbals, we can null out the snare, and we can totally adjust this. We could actually automate this. So we can be changing the polar pattern as he's playing. If he hits a cymbal, we could actually automate to null out that cymbal. So this was kind of the best result here, which is kind of odd. I mean, it's like we're using more of the back of the mic than the front of the mic. Because this is facing him, this is facing away, and I thought this sounded the best. But maybe it's because it's like at an angle, it's a slight angle here, so we're able to have the null, maybe just pointing towards him just a touch. So, yeah, so that null kind of shifts toward him, right? So it's still picking him up a little bit, but the null is shifting towards him. Here the null is shifting away from him towards the high tom. Here's the null pointing down, so it'd be like snare. Okay, once again.
You gotta have a little faith and understanding. Don't make me begging, please. I wanna know. I wanna know.
So that all sounds cool, but how does it sound in the mix? Obviously, I wanted to show it to you solo just so you can really hear that bleed. Let's see how it works in the mix.
You gotta have a little faith and understanding. Don't make me beg. I wanna know.
Okay, let's add some compression. I wanted to turn it off before I hit on, just to make sure we didn't get slammed and hit in the face with this.
Don't make me beg. I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. You run around in circles and got a chip on your shoulder, I could say.
Okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm using a high ratio. If I do a low ratio, I'm going to compress a little bit of everything. What that means, I'll be compressing the drums as well. So what I'm trying to do is kind of find a sweet spot where I'm controlling the vocal, hopefully only controlling the vocal. It's going to pick up some drums, but I'm hopefully just kissing the top of the vocal dynamics there and controlling that vocal.
Definition of insanity, living in a fantasy, I believe. Don't let me begging, please.
Okay, let me find a different spot here.
Think you're in too deep. You jumped in and hit the bottom. Now it's getting too dark to see. You gotta have a little faith, understanding. Don't make me beg. I wanna know. I wanna know.
Okay, so a little smoothing of some extra low frequencies there. I'm actually really happy that it was right on the mic, so, I mean, good job. Man, that's such a gift that he was just basically eating the mic there, so that's great, but we can just EQ some of that low out. We're doing a high ratio here, so we're only kissing the top of the dynamic range, hopefully keeping the drum bleed down, and then add an effect. And the effect is going to kind of simulate the fact that there's not as much bleed in there as there actually is. And I'm trying to kind of have this nice kind of warm effect that doesn't bring attention to the drum bleed, but brings attention to the vocal, okay? And kind of brings and kind of helps it along and kind of pushes it towards making the vocal sound like it's actually louder and more strong than it actually is in the mix.
I wanna know. You run around in circles and got a chip on your shoulder, I could say. Definition of insanity, living in a fantasy, I believe.
And yeah, I mean, I'll just
I wanna know.
yeah, I'm not sure what the best part of the song is here, but just kind of scooting around.
Think you're in too deep. You jumped in and hit the bottom. Now it's getting too dark to see.
Yeah, I used the RPQ2 by AEA, and I boosted. I don't know why I did that, but I boosted a lot in the top end. I guess I thought that it was needing it, but whatever. So we'll just kind of tame that a little bit, And I want to kind of add some kind of cutting ability, kind of make it poke just a little bit. And maybe I want to do something a little different with this low end. Maybe kind of pinpoint the low end issue here, just so it's not too muddy.
Think you're in too deep. You jumped in and hit the bottom. Now it's getting too dark to see. You gotta have a little faith and understanding. Don't make me begging, please. I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know.
So we're actually reducing the vocal here when it comes in. So that's kind of fighting us a little bit.
I wanna know. I wanna know.
Okay, and that, that actually sounds decent. And it's not amazing, but considering the circumstance,
I wanna know. I wanna know.
it actually kind of make it sound like a ballad now.
I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. We run around in circles,
Kind of pull up the frequencies that kind of help the ear realize that, hey, there's reverb on his voice.
Don't make me beg. I wanna know.
Okay, and compression. Let's see here. What should I use? Yeah.
I wanna know. I wanna know. You gotta have a little faith and understanding. Don't make me begging, please. I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. You run around in circles and got a chip on your shoulder, I can say.
Okay, so, that's kind of the idea. I'm really pleased with how well this worked. Again, here's what we would have had with just a normal mic. This is cardioid.
I wanna know. You run around in circles and got a chip on your shoulder, I can say. Definition of insanity, where you're living in a fantasy, I believe. Don't make me begging, please.
And again, we can cancel out different parts. We could also automate this too. So when he is not singing, we could kind of pull it down by 3-4 dB, just kind of ease it in without being noticeable. Like, whoa, what's missing? So we can kind of ease it down just a touch. We can also automate this to cancel out stuff. But yeah, I was really pleased with how this actually worked out. Really surprising. And again, better than SM7B because I tried that. I tried the SM7B. I tried this, and this actually worked a lot better.
I wanna know. Wanna know.
Okay. So, yeah, that's kind of a totally different feel and song. Again, a lot of the stuff we worked on today was kind of this upbeat funk tune. Let me pull down Kevin's mic on the vocals. Oh, yeah. You know, it works, you know? You have a good band, they play together, you allow them to play together, you put them all in one room, keep it as natural as possible, make them feel comfortable, make sure there's no offensive bleed. Yeah, it works. So, any questions, any ideas, anything you want to see next? Let me kind of check the chat here. Yeah. You know, I don't have a cloud lifter for the SM7B. I don't know. I've used them a few times. I just think it doesn't sound like the same preamps. You know, I lose something when I use it. But I've tried the Dynamite. That sounded good. That's by SE SE Electronics or whatever. SE Dynamite, and that was almost too much gain. Like, it's amazing, like how clean it is, but if you have somebody that sings loud, it almost is too much gain. It's like maybe 30 dB of gain. The Soyuz launcher is, I think, 27 dB of gain, which is still a lot. There's something really nice about the upper mids and the launcher when used with the SM7B, and I think it's a real winner. Somebody commented about the Soyuz tube. Yeah, the Soyuz tube, the 17. Great mic, really nice. It would have been great actually for that drummer's voice. I was just concerned about all the bleed, you know. So with a room like this, you can get away using a lot of dynamic mics. Okay, and dynamic mics means moving coil and ribbon. So within those two types of dynamics, you get a lot of control. You can put the mics right up on it. So your 421s, your drum close mics, trumpet, other things, you can really null out the kit using ribbons, or you could just get the mic really close. With condensers, it's more of a distance game, right? So you can get close, but you have to be careful when you get close. Maybe you got to go into like subcardioid or wide cardioid. And that's to kind of reduce the proximity effect. Now you're in wide cardioid, you're going to get more room. It's not going to work for this, right? So you have to kind of play to the strengths of your gear. So that's why dynamic and ribbon mics work so well in this kind of situation. I mean, I've done this where not a single condenser mic was used. You know, it was all ribbons and dynamic mics, and it worked great. So yeah. Yeah, Rick, I tried the hypercardioid. You know, for whatever reason, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but yeah, I just kind of used the slider. We have kind of a hypercardioid going on here, but it's actually the one that faces away from the drummer. It's really weird. I don't know why it works, but yeah, it's actually hypercardioid looking away from the drummer. And that seemed to have the least amount of offensive bleed coming into that vocal mic. Yeah. Rick talks about using a hypercardioid dynamic for live vocal. A lot of times the hypercardioid, because the way that the mic sits on a stand, and the way that you have stage monitors, is you rarely have a microphone that's going to point down at your monitors. Nobody really leans over their mic and sings down. They usually sing out to the audience, and so the angle of that mic usually fits very nicely with the null pattern of the hypercardioid, because it kind of nulls not to the back, but kind of at an angle. And a lot of times you can kind of cheat the angle a little bit and point it to the monitor. I heard that explanation from Dave Ratt. So if you want to learn some really cool tips, this guy, Dave Ratt, he's like a live sound engineer. He's got YouTube videos. And he mixed for Chili Peppers. He's done clinics on live mixing. He talks about how he busts his instruments together, and when the band starts rocking, lots of the instruments kind of get more compressed and kind of you could say saturated, but then the vocal isn't compressed and it goes to the top, and phase relationships of kick mics with huge walls of monitors behind the drummer. There's tons of really cool tips over at Dave Ratt. And that's where I kind of learned that hypercardioid with the monitor business. Yeah, gobos. Yeah. Yeah, we could have used gobos. But, we're also trying to film video. So, it's kind of hard to see if there's tons of walls and stuff. We could have used amp sims, right? We could have used all DI boxes. That would have been easier. We could have used headphones. We could have really killed and really controlled everything to where we literally have a drum room with a nice drum sound and just the soft strumming of electric guitar and keys, hitting, and that's it. But I don't know. There's something really cool about kind of making a soup of all the different bleed and just kind of seeing what happens. I think it works. So I don't know what else to talk about here, guys. So I'm gonna shut this down, check one more time for questions, and then we're gonna call it. So, Adam Rainstopper, dude, good to see you. I'm glad to see you on here, man. Hope you've been doing good. Yeah. OM7, I'll have to check that out and look that up. Bleed Soup is the name of the new punk band. I don't use a ton of amp sims, actually. Will is asking about that in the comments. I try to kind of do a kind of the best available approach. I'll reamp if possible. If I can't get the tone, I'll use an amp sim. I've tried a few of them, but I don't know. Every time I reamp, I just really enjoy the process. I might be kind of old school, but I really enjoy turning on an amp and just getting a chance to put up a room mic for the guitar solo, for example, and get kind of that loud sound, kind of like what we had here. And I don't know, there's something really enjoyable about firing up amps, and I just enjoy it. If you can't use amps, this Plug-in Alliance B15, this sounds amazing. That, within 5 minutes, my bass tone was dialed in. This sounded very, very nice. So I haven't checked out any of the Plugin Alliance stuff really. I mean, I'm just kind of exploring a little bit of it. Bass tone was kind of the first thing as far as amp sims from them. I'll try some guitar tone. This gives me high hope though. I mean, this was pretty nice. It speaks very well for Brainworks and me wanting to try some of the electric guitar tones and stuff, especially like the amps that I don't have, right? Like the big Marshalls and stuff like that. Big band or jazz recording? Yeah, yeah. I did a funk video with horns, but there's not a whole lot of big band. But I'd love to do it. Yeah. Dave Rat just covered his experience at Coachella. Great channel. Okay, guys. Well, I'm gonna call it. But thanks for joining me on this live stream. In the near future, give me a few days, maybe a week, or we're gonna launch a Man, I'm pretty fried. Uh yeah, server, Discord. I couldn't get the. I was thinking WeChat, but we launching a Discord so that we can continue the chat. Um, you know, I've seen a lot of really cool comments and like people like supporting each other. It's really cool how positive it is and stuff like that. So, yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for having fun. Hope you'd enjoyed this, and yeah, I really hope that the Discord could be a place where I can start uploading some of these files. Just a way for us to kind of keep in touch after the live stream finishes. I can put some links up there for the direct downloads of stuff. And that way you can kind of mess with this stuff. Okay, not just watch me mess with it, but actually have a chance of mixing some of these tracks. Okay, have a good night, guys. See you soon.